Hi, welcome to today's live. I don't know where you're watching me from, but my name is Rita James. I'm a clinical research scientist living and working in Germany. I've been doing a 90-day challenge on intermittent fasting with particular reference to OMAD. OMAD stands for 1 meal a day. And every day I'm trying to just, do a live to actually show you the progress of my intermittent fasting challenge. Today is day 10. That means I still have 80 days to go. Now, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I did this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was 56, and I did it because I noticed that I started adding weight. As at that time, too, I was still on some medications because of my cancer history. And the thing worked amazingly well for me. I really lost weight and I felt super. But after that, I now went back to my normal meals and I started adding weight again. I decided to do this and I decided to journal it and I decided to be doing a YouTube video every day or every other day. Or if I can't do it every other day, then at least once a week to do a situation report. Today is day 10. So if you want to join me on this 90-day OMAD journey, feel free to do that. It doesn't matter whenever you're going to be listening to this video. I have videos and I try to write the days on the video and the different subjects that I discuss when it comes to OMAD for over 50s. Today, I'm going to be talking about why intermittent fasting feels different after menopause. Because it is not today I started doing intermittent fasting. I've been doing it alone. I've been doing it. But I discovered that when you reach this menopause, it's different. It's not as easy as it was when I used to do it when I was younger, you know. So it's um it's a little bit different. Let me put it like that. So what is it that people are not telling you? What is it about doing intermittent fasting at menopause that makes it a little bit more difficult than when you were younger? Because you remember when you were younger, when you were before 50 years old, you could skip a few meals, you can walk a little more, you can cut out sugar, and then before you know it, 2 to 3 pounds is gone. You've lost some weight. But after menopause, now, it feels like your body suddenly switched into a kind of slow motion mode and everything becomes harder. Hunger is very sharp. Fasting feels as if the days are not even moving, the hours are not moving. And then your weight is coming off quite slowly. And your belly fat becomes very stubborn. And then energy is not as much as you expected it to be. And you start wondering, is there anything wrong? Or am I not doing this well? If you're having all those challenges and you've done fasting before, drop your comments below this video. Nothing is wrong with you, especially if you're over 50 and you're in your menopausal state. What is wrong is that nobody actually told us what actually happens to our bodies after menopause and why intermittent fasting has to be done a little bit differently when it comes to doing it when you're over 50. The reason number one is that when you're over 50 and after menopause, your insulin response changes. Most people think that menopause is all about estrogen dropping. It is true, your estrogen drops. But people are not even emphasizing and telling us that our insulin, which is the fat storage hormone, becomes even more stronger, causing more fat storage over 50. That means that you store fat faster when you're over 50, and you burn it slower when you're over 50. A tiny spark in carbohydrate hits you harder when you're over 50, and your hunger hormones become very unpredictable. You know, there are hunger hormones. There's a hormone that signals to your brain that you're hungry. There's a hormone that does that. There's a hormone that does that, you know. But that is why these things I've told you, that is why it makes fasting a little bit more difficult for us that are over 50. But there's good news. This intermittent fasting still works. It is still effective, even when you do it over menopause. You just have to do it the right way. That is why I tried to bring up all these short videos talking about it and how to do it the right way. Now, reason number 2, why it looks as if intermittent fasting is more difficult when you're over 50 is that you're losing muscle faster than you realize. You're losing muscle faster than you realize. Find out that between the ages of 50 and 60, we lose up to 1% of muscle per year without you even noticing it. And muscle is our metabolism. So when your muscle drops, your metabolism slows down. Fasting feels harder. You feel weaker. In fact, this morning I was feeling quite weak, a little bit weak. But now that I'm taking my ginger, I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling much better. You burn your calories less. You gain fat easier. Fasting is a great tool, but without enough protein, you will feel drained instead of energized. That is why women over 50 must break their fast differently. In my last video, I showed you how to break your fast once you're over 50. If you used to just jump on top of carbohydrate, you jump on top of rice or gari or any other carbohydrate thing, pizza, when you're breaking your fast. It is not too advisable when you're over 50 to break your fast like that. That is why I took time to talk about it in my last video. You can look at it, different ways to break your fast, or the best ways you can break your fast over 50. So, how do you break your fast? In summary, let me just summarize what I said in that video. You eat your protein first. You eat a healthy fat second. You eat your carbohydrate last. So what do I do? Most times I take eggs. Either I cook it, I fry 2 to 3 eggs to break the fast. Then I take avocado pear. That is a healthy fat. Before I take my real one meal. So that is how I do it. As I'm 58. So the way I break fast now is not the way I used to break it when I used to do intermittent fasting when I was younger. Now, number 3 reason, cortisol rises after menopause. And this also affects fasting. After menopause, your body produces more cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone, especially in the morning, And when you have high cortisol, it's equal to high belly fat storage. So when you start fasting with anxiety, dehydration, caffeine only, poor sleep, you feel shaky, you're hungry, you're tired. It's not you, especially when you're starting the fasting. It's cortisol. So how do you fix this cortisol wahala? Number 1, hydrate a lot before you take your coffee. Add electrolytes when you're fasting. What I do when I'm drinking my water, I take a little bit of sea salt. Sea salt contains I think it's about 88 minerals, 88 important minerals. Not table salt, sea salt. Sea salt is enough for you to hydrate yourself. Or if you don't, you can buy electrolyte water that contains the basic electrolytes that your body needs. And then try to do things that are not stressful, at least the first 3 hours of the day. I know sometimes it may be difficult, depends on the work you do. But try. Then reduce stress in those first 2 to 3 hours. Use some herbal teas like peppermint tea and ginger to calm your body. Me, I use ginger, as you have seen. Fresh ginger, not ginger. I use fresh chopped ginger in hot water, and I put a little bit of lemon in it. The reason number 4 why fasting over 50 is so difficult is that, as I said before, your digestion slows down. After menopause, your digestion and your gut mobility slows down. So heavy meals feel heavier. Meals you used to take before feels as if it's not digesting. It feels as if it's taking so long to digest. You feel bloated faster. If you're having all these challenges, drop your comments below this video. Breaking your fast with fruit also hurts your stomach because of the sugar. Certain foods can make you feel puffy. Your gut reacts more strongly to sugar and carbohydrates. Fasting is not the problem, it's how you break your fast. Please watch that other video before this one. How you break your fast is very important. So when you're over 50, it is much better, as I've said, much, much better to break your fast with things like bone broth, things like eggs, things like salmon, the common sardine, things like avocado pear, sauerkraut, yogurt, especially Greek yogurt and all that. So those are gentle foods that can actually help you break your fast better. Number 5 reason why it is difficult, why fasting over 50 seems to be very difficult, seems to be very hard. It's because our bodies becomes more prone to inflammation after 50. Estrogen protects us from inflammation. And once it drops, inflammation increases. And this affects fasting because inflammation is equal to water retention. Water retention is equal to weight that refuses to move. You feel more swollen, more full, your joints ache, your belly looks bigger. That is why fasting sometimes feels harder after menopause, because you're dealing with a completely different internal environment. But intermittent fasting reduces this inflammation if you do it consistently. Intermittent fasting is not something that you do just 2, 3, 4 days and you stop. When you make it a part of your life, like me now, I do OMAD Monday to Friday. That means I give myself just about 2.5 to 3 hours eating window. The rest of those hours, I'm taking different kinds of fluid. I'm taking my electrolytes. I'm taking my multivitamins, taking my calcium, magnesium, But on Saturdays and Sundays, I do a 6-hour window. That is how I do my own. So that it's something that I can do consistently. It's not something that I'll just do a few days and stop, because I did it 2 years ago, as I said, and I stopped. I didn't like the result. That is why I'm doing it again. And that is why I've decided to journal it so that I keep myself accountable. That is it. And when you're over 50 and you're fasting, you do not bounce back the same way. That is, the effect is not as fast. Because I noticed that this is over a week and I'm still 88 kg. Unlike before, when I did it the last time, at least by 1 week, I'd lost 1 kg. This one, I'm still 88. Even though I've started feeling a little bit lighter, you know, I can now bend down and tie my shoelaces, but the weight is still there. So let's see what happens in the next 2, 3 weeks, you know. So streamline your fasting. Do what works for you. Don't just go straight. Like I said, if you're watching this and you don't know what OMAD stands or you've never fasted before, you know, don't just go straight to that. You can start with a 16-18. That means 16-8, which is the most common one. You have 8 hours of eating window. Maybe you eat your first meal by 11, your second one by 7 or something like that. You have about 8 hours of eating window. So graduate slowly. Slowly reduce your eating window, Or you can do it 2 to 3 times a week. You can start like that, especially if you're new to intermittent fasting, you know. So you can have some rest days, without fasting or things like that. So do it slow, steady. Because one thing about fasting is not something you rush. You do it slowly, and the results are slow, but they're definite. You will get it. You will get those results. That's it. You know. So intermittent fasting is really not so hard. It just requires you to be more smarter, you know, because once you understand what your body needs, the fasting finally starts to work for you and not against you. And when it clicks, you will lose your weight steadily, steady. Your belly, you begin to notice that it is shrinking. Your mood will improve. Your cravings will disappear. Your energy will be back. And you feel once more like yourself again, you know? So if this video has helped you in any way, if you started OMAD or any form of intermittent fasting and you're over 50, please drop your comment. Even if you're not over 50 and you want to actually start intermittent fasting, it is very fun. I advise you to do it. Also drop your comments. How is it feeling like? How is your experience? How is your journey like? You know? So that's it for today on why intermittent fasting seems hard when you're over 50. I've given you some few reasons because most times when you understand something, it gives you reason to continue. So if you're having all those things I listed and you're over 50, 60, 58 like me, then you now understand why it is. Because I'm telling you as it is, I'm doing it. I'm doing, as I said, that it's over a week now. Today is day 10. I just weighed myself this morning. I'm still 88. But I've started feeling, how will I put it? I've started having more energy, especially after taking my ginger drink every morning. So see you in my next stream.